Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to a new video with Mr. Wael Abdurrahman. Before we start, kindly like, subscribe, turn on notification, and leave a comment for any questions or suggestions. Now, let's begin. Okay, today we have reading. We will read and answer a reading passage, mainly fictional one, from one of the released SET tests, test number 10. To download this test, please visit the College Board website or just download it from the link in the descriptions below. Let's start. Okay, before you read any fictional passage, I have some tricks and tips for you. Please don't read for nothing any fictional passage. Sorry. While reading any fictional passage, you must have a task. Don't just read for nothing. So you have to identify 6 points while reading. Number 1, you have to identify the setting. Okay? What is setting? It is the time and place. 2, the characters. Who are the characters? 3, the relationship between the characters. The attitude. And attitude means feelings and beliefs. 5, any shift in attitude. The keywords like but, yet, however, now. The last one is the point of view. And what do I mean by point of view? The narration. Who is narrating the story? So, is it one of the characters? So, you will find the word I. We call this first person. Or a third person, someone who is not a character, like he and she and they. So these are the keywords to know the third person. And we have again 2 types of third person. Limited, which is limited only to one character. So you know only one character. You know everything about him, how he thinks or she thinks, how he or she feels. That's limited to only one character. The other kind is omniscient, which is most common. So omniscient means knowing all. So you know everything. So the narrator knows everything about the characters. How they feel, what do they think, everything. So this is Mr. Knows. The last point is the main point. الموضوع عن إيه? What is the purpose of writing this passage? إيه القصة? Okay, so again, don't read for nothing. Remember, identify, setting, characters, relationships, attitude, shift in attitude, point of view, and the main point. Okay? Good. Please write them down, take notes. Number 2. خلصنا قراية. Now we are starting to نحل بقى الأسئلة. So while answering type أنواع questions إيه؟ 1, we have general questions. يعني إيه general questions? Like main idea of the passage, purpose of the passage, summarize the passage, how the passage is developed and how the passage is organized. And كان في video I uploaded it. I think you'll find it بعنوان how the passage is organized. Okay, number 2, the second type of questions, vocabulary. Number 3, specific questions. And we have 2 types of specific questions, with citation and without citation. And citation, I mean citation line reference or paragraph reference. فهو موديك على part في الباسج. Okay, ده with citation type. في نوع تاني بيسموه ال paired question. يعني question 1 or question 2. Question 1 asking you a certain question and what's the evidence. So this is 2 parts. Okay, question 1 and question 2, they are linked together. Okay, and the other kind is without citation. No line reference and no paragraph reference. Just asking about a specific event or something in the passage. طيب النهارده هنعمل ايه بقى؟ Okay, today's plan. Okay, بص يا سيدي. Number 1, I'd like you to download the test. خلاص, the descriptions below. Click download the test. Okay. 2, pause this video for 13 till 15 minutes. طب وبعدين try to read and answer the questions. وما تنساش while reading you have to identify the 6 items اللي احنا كتبناهم فوق. Okay. Setting, the characters, the relationships, the attitude, shift in attitudes will narrator. I ولا he ولا she, the point of view. Who is the narrator? Okay, and please come back after 15 minutes. Okay? Yeah. Thank you. See you in a while. Okay, welcome back. So let's read the passage together. Okay, before you read the passage, don't forget to read the blurb. Okay, the blurb is important. So in this passage, he wrote nothing in the blurb, nothing here in the blurb, but actually, usually he writes important pieces of information in the blurb. So let's read the passage. Okay, Miss Grace Spivey arrived in Three Steps, Georgia in August 1938. So here we have a character, Miss Spivey. And we have the setting. It's Georgia and the time 1938. So actually we have here the setting. Okay, next. She stepped off the train wearing a pair of thick-soled boots suitable for hiking, a navy blue dress, and a little white tam that rode the waves of her hair, red hair, at a gravity-defying angle. So actually this is a descriptive part. So that part is descriptive. So you can just skip it. So it's all about this Miss Spivey who arrived at Georgia. Okay. August was a hellish month to step off the train in Georgia, although it was nothing. And then we have an unessential, compared to the 119 degrees that greeted her when she arrived one day in Timbuktu, which, again, we have an unessential, which, okay, she assured to us was a real place in Africa. So here, we can see that the narrator here, he said us, so we can know from this word that this is a first-person narration. Okay, so this is first-person narration. So what happened here, that this Miss Spivey, she arrived in a hellish month, so it was very hot. And when she came to Georgia, well, she only said that it's nothing. This 119, this heat is nothing if compared to this place that she went to in Timbuktu. يعني انتوا عندكم الدنيا حر ولكن في تمبكتو الدنيا أحر. Okay. I believe her remark irritated, means annoyed, some of the people gathered to welcome her on the burnt grass alongside the track. So here we have an attitude. So what is the attitude of the people? They were irritated. They were annoyed. They didn't like this remark. واقفين حرانين ويعني تقول لهم إن انتوا that's nothing. Yeah. When folks are sweating through their shorts, they don't like to hear that this is nothing. شايفين nothing هنا italics. So that's stressing this word. Nothing. Okay? So when folks are sweating through their shorts, they don't like to hear that this is nothing compared to someplace else. Irritated or not, the majority of those present were inclined to see the arrival of the new school teacher, okay, in a positive light. So we knew who's this person, this Miss Spivey. She is a school teacher. Hard times were still upon us in 1938, but like my mama said, so again it's my mama, so that's an evidence, this is first person. Okay, so hard times were still upon us in 1938, but like my mama said, we weren't no poorer than we'd ever been. And the citizens of Three Step were in the mood for a little excitement. Okay, next. Line 21. Miss Spivey looked like just the right person to give it to them. She was, and then we have a non-essential, okay, from these two commas. So she was a woman of the world. So what does that mean? She was a woman of the world. Keep reading, please. She'd gone to boarding schools since she was 6 years old. She'd studied French and in Paris and drama in London. So she traveled a lot. That's why she's a woman of the world. She studied French in Paris. She studied drama in London. And during what she called a fruitful intermission in her formal education, she had traveled extensively in Near East and Africa with a friend of her grandmother's, one Janet Miller, who was a medical doctor from Nashville, Tennessee. So what do we have here? The vocabulary. We have the word fruitful, intermission. Don't forget to write down the new vocabulary. That's very crucial. That's important. Okay. Fruitful, like useful. Intermission, a break. So she had a break from her education. أخذت أجازة that was useful to travel, and she traveled to Africa, okay, with Mr. Miller, or with one of her grandmother's friends called Janet Miller. Okay. After her travels with Dr. Miller, Miss Peavy continued her education by attending Barnard College in New York City. So nothing happened. She finished her trip, continued education. She told us again all that at school the first day. Oh, so here she told us the first day. So who's the speaker? You can imagine who's the speaker. When my little brother, Ralford, asked what did she study at Barnard College, Miss Spivey, so we have another character here called Ralford, the relationship with the narrator. Ralford is the narrator's little brother. So he asked the teacher, he asked Miss Spivey, what did she study at Barnard College? Miss Spivey explained that Barnard, which she wrote on the blackboard, was, again that's a non-essential, was sister school of Columbia University, of which she expected, we all heard. So she expected. Okay, this Ralford asked her, okay, what did she study? And she said that Barnard, her college, is a sister school of Columbia University. She expected that they know this piece of information, but actually they didn't hear about Barnard or Columbia, University of Columbia. They didn't hear that, but she expected that they knew this piece of information. فاهمين؟ طيب. يا رب تكونوا فاهمين. It was there, she told us, in the midst of trying to find her true mission in life, that she wandered one afternoon into a lecture by a famous John Dewey, who was talking about his famous book Democracy and Education. So what happened here? عايزة تعرف هي هتعمل ايه في الحياة. She was trying to find أنا هعمل ايه الميشن بتاعتي في الدنيا. So she wandered. You know, to wander means to walk without any aim. بتتمشى. That's by accident she went into a lecture by this person, this John Dewey, where John Dewey was talking about democracy and education. Okay, what happened next? Professor Dewey was in his 70s by then. Miss Peavy said, but he still liked to chat with students after a lecture. Non-essential تاني. Sometimes over coffee, so we can just delete that. Okay, and see in their eyes the fire his words could kindle. It was after this lecture and subsequent coffee that Miss Miller Spivey had marched to the teachers' college and signed up. So after this, this lecture, this Mr. Dewey inspired her to be a teacher. He talked about democracy and the importance of education to teach children. So she decided to be a teacher. So after this lecture, she went to the teachers' college. So that's an important part. That's a shift. So we have it. Okay. Next, 2 years later, notice here the timeline. سنتين بعد الموضوع ده, she told a cheery blue-suited woman from the WPA. طب لو بصينا ورا على WPA, when you find this one, please go back and see it. مين ال WPA? The Works Progress Administration, the abbreviation, was a government agency that hired people for public and cultural development projects and services. ما كان بيشغلوا فيه الناس. Okay? فراح هتشتغل. So 2 years later, بعد ال teachers college, she told this woman that she wanted to bring democracy and education to the poorest, darkest, and most remote and forgotten corner of America. You know the word remote means far. So she went there and she wanted to teach children, not any children, no, she wanted to teach the poorest, okay, the darkest and most remote place in America. So she sent her to Three-Step, Georgia. So you can imagine where is this place. ممكن تتخيل بقى المكان ده فين. Okay, poor جدا, dark جدا, remote جدا. So that's a town that is so poor and dark. Okay, next. Miss Peavy paused there for questions, avoiding my brother Radford's eye. What we really wanted to know about, okay, non-essential again, okay, was the pearly white button hanging on a string in front of the blackboard behind the teacher's desk up front. Okay, so there was a button, وراها كان في زرار button. They wanted to know what is this button about. That button on a string was something new. When Mavis Davis, so another character, who is Mavis Davis? The only bona fide 7th grader at age 13 asked what it was for. Miss Pivy gave the string a tug, and to our astonishment, the whole world, okay, or at least a wrinkled map of it unfolded before our eyes. So bona fide like on the level، يعني ده ولد يعني في مستوى الجريد 7 يعني شاطر، okay، ده الجامد بتاعهم. So he asked her, okay, what is this button ده بتاع ايه يا مس؟ So she داست على البutton، فايه اللي حصل؟ ماب، في ماب نزلت لهم، فكان اول مره يشوفوها يعني. فبيقول احنا her predecessor Miss Chandler had never once made use of that map, which was older than our fathers, and until that moment not a one of us knew it was there. يعني في grade 7 والماب دي موجودة، but her predecessor يعني the teacher before her اللي كان اسمها Miss Chandler, she had never used this map to teach the children or to يعني to show them the world. That's why they know nothing about the world. They didn't know anything about the world. Okay? Miss Peavy showed us on the map how she and Dr. Janet Miller had sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and passed the Rock of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean Sea. Using the end of a ruler, she gently tapped such places as Morocco, Tunis, Algiers to mark their route along the top of Africa. Nothing, just descriptive places اللي هي راحتها. They spent 20 hours on the train to Baghdad, she said. Okay, swathed in veils against the sand and that crept in every crack and crevice. Okay, like veil يعني حاطين حاجة على راسهم من السand. And can you guess what we saw from the train? She's asking them. Can you guess what we saw from the train? Miss Peavy asked. We could not. Camels, she said. قلت لهم تخيلوا احنا شفنا ايه؟ قالوا لها ايه؟ Camels. We saw a whole caravan of camels. She looked around the room, waiting for us to be amazed and delighted. Again, she made the same mistake. She thought that they knew what camels are, but actually they have never seen a camel before. They don't know what is a camel. This is the first time to hear this word. So again, she didn't know that. We all hung there for a minute. Ida, what is a camel? What is that? Is that a fruit? Is that an animal? What is that? Is that a place? Thinking hard. Until Mavis Davis, الجامد بتاعهم, spoke up. بيفهمهم بقى. She means like the three kings rode to Bethlehem. That's a place. Mavis said. And she folded her hands smugly on her 7th grade desk in the back of the room. بيقولون فاكرين يا اولاد القصه اللي خدناها بتاعت 3 kings؟ مش كان في the 3 kings they were riding an animal? This is the camel. فهموا بقى. So Miss Peavy made a mistake right then. Instead of beaming upon Mavis the kind of congratulatory smile that Miss Chandler would have bestowed on her for having enlightened the rest of us, Miss Peavy simply said, that's right. So from the point of view of this narrator, البوي ده, what's her mistake? Predecessor Miss Chandler ما كان حد بيقول حاجة صح, she just smiled, only smiled. But Miss Peavy did something new. She said, that's right, kid. Okay, now let's go to the questions. Okay, now question number 1. The narrator of the passage can best be described as one of Miss Peavy's former students, Miss Peavy's predecessor, an anonymous member of the community, Miss Peavy's herself. You know the word anonymous means unnamed. So who do you think? How do you answer this question? We have no citation. So just go to the passage and I think we knew it. We have an evidence. When he said, I think in line, where is that? Who is that? Here. Here. She told us all that at school the first day. So I think these are students. Actually, from all the details here, that's a student. Okay. Okay, the next question. Okay, we have paired question. No. Okay, in the passage, 3-step is mainly presented as summer retreat. You know, a retreat is a place, okay, of privacy. So it's a place for privacy, for vacationers, you know, vacationers, someone on vacation, or small rural town, you know the word rural, like countryside, أرياف يعني. Okay, town that is home to a prominent university, prominent like famous, or comfortable suburb. You know, a suburb like an outskirt of a city, outskirt, حتة بعيدة عن الcity بسميها suburb. Okay, طيب, how can we answer this question? So this question, again, we have no line reference, no citation. طب نعمل ايه؟ اتقالت فين الحتة دي؟ طيب نشوف كده اتقالت فين. فاكرين هنا البارت, this part, okay, when she wanted to, here in line 50, okay, here, 2 years later, she told this cherry blue suited woman from the WPA that she wanted to bring democracy and education to the poorest, darkest, and most remote and forgotten corner of the world. They sent her to 3-step. يبقى 3-step ده مكان ايه؟ للvacation, بنقضي فيه vacation. Is that for vacation? No, that's not vacation أكيد. That's a poor place, dark place, far place. Okay, so is it a rural town? We have no evidence that it's a rural town, so it's not a vacation. And do we have a prominent university? Nothing was mentioned about that. It's a poor place. So what do you think? I'm sorry. So yeah, so it's a retreat. No, it's not a retreat. It's a rural town, small rural town, maybe town that is home to a prominent university. No, it's a comfortable. No, it's not comfortable at all. So I think this small and this rural town is nearest to its far, poor, dark. So it's the answer will be B. Okay, question number 3. Okay, question with evidence. Okay, paired question. Okay, it can reasonably be inferred from the passage that some of the people at the train station regard Miss Peavy's comment about Georgia's heat with. So, how did they feel about her comments? Sympathy. Okay, and the adjective is very important. Notice the adjectives. Sympathy, disappointment, embarrassment, resentment. Resentment means anger. Okay. Because they assume that she is experiencing intense heat for the first time, because they doubt she will stay in the 3-step for a very long, because they imagine she is superior, because they resentment, because they feel that she is minimizing their discomfort. فاكرين البارت ده يا ولاد قال فين؟ وطبعا هنا في citation. طب فاكرين البارت ده قلناه فين؟ في الأول خالص, at the beginning, خالص في البداية. قال إيه؟ في line 10 لما قال I believe her remark irritated some of the people gathered to welcome on the burned grass alongside the track. When folks are sweating through their shorts, they don't like to hear that this is nothing compared to someplace else. So they were irritated, which means ايه اقرب واحدة irritated هنا اللي هي which one? Resentments. They were angry actually. They were angry. Okay. And what's the evidence? طبعا احنا طلعنا evidence B. Okay. 5. Miss Peavy most likely uses the phrase fruitful intermission in line 26 to indicate that she benefited from taking time off from her studies in order to travel. Her travels with Janet Miller encouraged her to start medical school. Actually, she's not a doctor. That's eliminated من reading سريع بتاعنا. Her early years at boarding school resulted in unanticipated rewards. She got some rewards. She didn't know that. What she thought would be a short break from school lasted several years. I think إحنا ما عادتش several years. So it's either A or C. طيب نروح لline 26. ممكن نقرأ قبلها بشوية بسيطة جدا. So what do we have here? لما أقول هنا she had gone, yeah, that part. So she had gone to a boarding school since she was 6 years old. She had studied French in Paris, drama in London, and during what she called fruitful intermission. ايه اللي حصل بقى في fruitful intermission؟ في الأجازة الحلوة المفيدة دي. In her formal education عملت ايه؟ She had traveled. يبقى الإجابة ايه؟ She had traveled. هي سافرت. أخذت أجازة وسافرت. So the answer is actually that she traveled. Simply. Okay, so for question number 5, she benefited from taking time off from her studies in order to travel. The answer is A. Okay. Number 6. The interaction between Miss Peavy and Ralford serves mainly to برضه سؤال من غير citation. طب نعمل ايه؟ خليكم فاكرين رالفورد اتقال في any part. فاكرين رالفورد؟ تعالى كده نشوف الانسرز بتقول ايه. Suggest that Miss Peavy has an exaggerated view of what information should be considered common knowledge. يعني ايه الكلام ده؟ exaggerated يعني مبالغة، يعني هي شايفة ان في حد عارف حاجة المفروض يبقى عارفها، بس هو يعني انا تصورت ان انت you know it. I expected that you know it, but you don't know it. فهنا ده بسميها exaggerated view of what information should be considered common knowledge. So I'm telling you something أنا فاكر إن هو بالنسبة لك common knowledge, but you don't know it. B. Establish a friendly dynamic between the charming school children and their indulgent and dotting new structure. بتعمل علاقة بينهم. Introduce Ralford as a precocious young student and Miss Peavy as a dismissive, disinterested teacher. Demonstrate that the children want to amuse Miss Peavy with their questions. طيب نروح للبارت بتاع رالفورد. Okay. Okay. So where is that? Okay. That was in line. I think that was here. Ralford was mentioned here. This is Ralford. So when my little brother Ralford asked what did she study at Barnard College, Miss Peavy explained that Barnard, which was skip the non-essential, which was the sister school of Columbia, Columbia University, of which she expected us to know. بس هم ما كانوش عارفين. يبقى ده بسميها ايه؟ exaggerated point of view of general knowledge. هي افتكرت ان ده بالنسبه لهم general knowledge. انتوا عارفين ان دي sister college ف this is general knowledge. But actually they didn't know. فهي so the answer is A. Okay, 7. In the third paragraph, what is the narrator most likely suggesting by describing Miss Peavy as having wandered, فاكرين wandered, walk without any aim, in one situation and marshaled in line 49 in another situation. يعني كان قصده ايه؟ عايز يقول ايه؟ يستخدم كلمة wandered وmarshaled. اوكي طيب تعالى كده نشوف قال ايه في الانسرز. Dewey, knowing Miss Peavy wasn't very confident in her ability to teach, instilled in her a sense of determination. يعني Dewey instilled, put in her, حط فيها determination وهي ما عندهاش confidence. Talking with Dewey offer, this is B, over coffee made Miss Peavy realize how excited she was to teach in the poorest and most remote corner of America. Inspired her to do that. Okay, C. After 2 years spent studying, Miss Peavy was anxious to start teaching and be in charge of her own classroom. Miss Peavy's initial means first, encounter means meeting with Mr. Dewey's ideas was somewhat accidental, but ultimately motivated her to a decisive decision. طيب تعالى كده نشوف السؤال ده بيقول ايه هنا في line 40. ايه اللي حصل في line 40؟ Okay. Sorry. So it was after, here in line 47, it was after this lecture. Okay, تعال نشيل كل الهيصة دي كده. Okay, so it was after this lecture and subsequent coffee that Miss Peavy had marshaled to the teachers' college. لا في حتة قبلها احنا ما قريناهاش اللي هي wondered. I'm sorry. So it was there she told us in the midst of trying to find her own mission in life that she wandered one afternoon into a lecture of the famous Miss Dewey. طب هي كانت wonder، كانت ماشية من غير أي هدف، حاطة في دماغها أي حاجة، راحت قابلت مستر ديوي. إيه اللي حصل بقى؟ She marshaled to the teachers college. 2 years later she told راحت للست بتاعت WPA وقالت لها أنا عايزة أروح المكان poor. So what could be the answer؟ هي كانت ماشية بالصدفة وراحت accidentally قابلت الراجل ده، وأول ما عرفت marshed. كلمة marshed يعني إيه marshed؟ to walk متعمد، خلاص أنت رايح مكان قصده. you knew what you wanted. ف wondered أنت مش عارف تعمل إيه. but marshed you know your target. أنت عارف هدفك، عارف تروح فين. so what do you think the answer؟ so A له علاقة بالconfidence؟ no. طيب B talking with Dewey over coffee made Miss Peavy realize how excited she was to teach in the poorest most remote places؟ no. لأن she went to that place 2 years later. هي بعد ما اتكلمت معاه she راحت السكول، راحت الكوليدج to be a teacher, but she went to this poor place 2 years later, so it's not B. After 2 years spent studying, Miss Peavy was anxious to start teaching and be in charge. That's not the answer. So Miss Peavy's initial first encounter with Dewey's ideas was somewhat accidental. يبقى accidental ده لما قال كلمة ايه؟ wondered, but ultimately motivated for a decisive حاجة هتاخدها قرار اللي هي ايه بقى؟ marshal. انت عارف انت عايز ايه. So you took your decision فيو marshal للست اللي هتشغلك في agency دي. Okay. طيب 8. So I'm sorry, so the correct answer is definitely D. طيب 8. According to the passage, Miss Peavy ended up in 3 steps as a direct result of سؤال برضو without citation. فاكرين هي راحت ليه راحت 3 step as a direct result of ايه؟ her friendship with Janet Miller, attending the college in New York City, talking with the woman at the WPA, Miss Chandler's retirement from teaching. طيب اتقالت فين البارت ده؟ فاكرين البارت ده؟ مش عايزين بقى نكرر ونزهقكم. راحت هنا قالت للست انا عايزه اروح البورست والداركست، على طول عملت ايه؟ they sent her. they who are they؟ اللي هي الايه؟ WPA. they sent her to 3 steps. okay. يبقى the answer definitely that's an easy question اللي هو مين؟ الايه؟ talking with a woman at the WPA. طيب question 9 and 10 again paired. In the passage, when Miss Peavy announces that she had seen camels, the students' reaction suggests that they are what? Okay, ما قلت لهم camels. هي كانت متوقعة أو the students' reaction الرياكشن بتاع students كان إيه؟ Delighted يعني happy, are they happy؟ لما قلت لهم camels. Fascinated يعني they were attracted, fascinated اللي قالته. They were baffled like confused. And they were worried, anxious. Okay. طبعا question with evidence. طيب مش محتاجين نقرا evidence كلها, but I think you know the answers in. تعالوا نشوف كده اتقالت فين في evidence بتاع line here we go. Okay, تعالوا نمسح كل الهيصة دي ونشوف هنا بنقول ايه. She looked لما قالت لهم camels هنا and من 80 and you guess what we saw from the train. Miss Peavy asked. We could see camels, she said. We saw a whole caravan of camels. She looked around the room waiting for us to be amazed and delighted. طب بص بقى الإجابة فين؟ أهي الإجابة هنا أهي. قالت إيه؟ We all hung there for a minute. إحنا هنا تنحنا مش فاهمين. So we're not happy, not fascinated, we're not worried. Actually we were baffled, confused. هي بتقول إيه الست دي؟ So actually the answer is C, and for 10 it's B. Okay, and that's it for today. So I hope this class is beneficial. Please, my advice to you is to read. Always read. You know, the SET, the EST, the ACT, it's all about reading. Read articles, read novels. Don't stop reading. It's all about reading. You have to develop and improve your reading skills. So just every day take like خد ولو كل يوم نص ساعة اقرأ، طلع new vocabulary، اكتب الكلمات اللي انت مش عارفها. Use the words in your everyday language. Okay, write sentences. Just 30 minutes every day. Read scientific articles. اقرأ أي حاجة historical. Just don't stop reading. وبالتوفيق إن شاء الله. و I hope and you enjoyed your class. It's not boring. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, turn on notifications, and have a nice day. Thank you.